Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of the Popcast. My name's Pop, and I decided to start this channel because I've been having a ton of fun theory crafting and cooking up some spicy deck ideas for Set 8, and wanted to share it with the larger Lorcana community. You might also be able to hear that I'm pretty sick at the moment, so maybe not the best idea to record right now, but I wanted to get this list out there as soon as possible because it's a ton of fun, and so without further ado, here's my breakdown of my KiWheel list. This list revolves heavily around the new Set 8 card Down in New Orleans, or Dino for short. It's a 6-cost uninkable Sapphire song that reads, "Look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You may reveal a character, item, or location card with cost 6 or less and play it for free. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order." Playing things for free is always amazing in Lorcana, and especially if you can sing this for free to play something for free, even better. This will also inspired the list Dino Veen, which, if you didn't see it, was a blue-yellow list that relied on ramping to Naveen and then playing Naveen and playing this for free, which was a really cool concept, but kind of struggles because blue-yellow as a color combo doesn't have good big yellow bodies to put out off of this, and it also doesn't have any sort of removal, and also kind of lacks card draw outside of Rapunzel. So a lot of the time you just couldn't deal with your opponent's board and struggled to make it in the late game. How do we solve that? Blue Steel. As a longtime Blue Steel enjoyer, Blue Steel has card draw, it has removal, and it also has a plethora of big 5-6 cost bodies, plus Pete, that you can put down and make this a much more competitively viable concept. With that in mind, the rest of the key cards in this deck can be broken down into Dino Singers, specifically early Dino Singers, and Dino Targets. So starting off with Dino Singers, we first want to look at this 1-drop Kit Cloud Kicker and his shift 6-cost Kit Cloud Kicker. The 1-drop is a 0/1 with Ward that quests for 1. You're never going to be questing with him most likely, but the Ward is really important because Steel Song is running really rampant right now, and so if you drop him down on 1 because he has Ward, he can't be targeted by things like Storm or Strength, and it's kind of guaranteed to stick on the board until you can get his shift target out. Now, looking at the shift target, this is a 6-cost 2/5 that shifts for 3, which is the only one in the game. It's pretty crazy that shifts for 3 as a 6-cost. And he also has Ward, again, super relevant for dealing with things like not getting targeted by Zeus, Muses can't bounce this back, Medusa's not going to be able to target this, and he quests for 3, which means that when you're not singing with him, you can just kind of quest out later, and they're going to have to challenge into him to deal with him. Now, ideally, your playline is going to look something like Little Kit on turn 1, turn 2 you can ramp or play Smee, and then on turn 3 you shift in Kit Cloud Kicker and sing Dino. Right? And then you're hoping that you hit something off of Dino that will protect Kit to survive another day. And as a 2/5 body, he's pretty beefy on turn 3, so he might survive anyway. Now, just that by itself is not nearly consistent enough, and we don't have Naveen in this list, but Steel does have another 4-cost 6-singer in the form of Miss Bianca, who is a 6-cost 5/5, but if you have an ally character in play, you can pay 2 less to play her, so you can pay 4 ink instead of 6. So the other line of play is going to be playing something like Tipo on turn 2, who is an ally, to then play Miss Bianca on turn 3 and sing Dino on turn 4. And then at that point, you still have enough ink to play another 5-drop body on top of that. And that's why we have both Tipo and Sail. Tipo's going to be a little bit better because he is an ally, so he'll proc Miss Bianca, but there's plenty of times where you might have the 1-drop kit, but not the 6-drop kit, and you can play a line like 1-drop kit into Sail, into Miss Bianca, just for the extra card draw, and then you have the threat of shifting into the kit later on down the line or even next turn to sing with both of them. So now that we talked about how we're going to sing Dino early, let's break down what we actually want to see when we do sing it. Now, the first thing to mention is that this list is running quite a good number of characters. We have almost 40 characters in this list, which means that Dino in a draw 3 card situation has a very, very high chance of connecting. And so what do we want to see when it connects? When we draw those 3, who do we want to see the most? The most important characters we want to see early, most of the time, are going to be Cogsworth and Chenpo, right? Both of these characters coming down for free is huge. And obviously, Chenpo as a bodyguard is going to protect your singer, almost guaranteed for a turn. 4/7 with bodyguard is really hard to deal with, especially on turn 3 if you sing with Kit. And same thing with Cogsworth, right? Cogsworth coming down on turn 3 or turn 4 for free is super menacing and is probably going to be enough with his resist 1 to stop your Kit from dying, and especially your Bianca from dying. That'll give both of them resist 1, so things like Zeus will no longer take out Bianca, and challenging into Kit with something like a Fox is going to be a lot harder. So that's why they're both 4-ofs in this deck. And we do have some other targets here, right? We're running, I guess first of the other 4-of, Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell is just a really, really strong card and is going to help us deal with a lot of these early aggro decks, things like Chernadogs, things like Amber Steel aggro, and is really crucial for lack of early board presence by coming down, dealing 1 to all the characters, and just being a constant threat, especially if we can play her for free. And she, as another 6 cost, is also able to sing Dino if we happen to pull into another one, right? And then the last target, I guess last 2 targets we want to talk about, is Namari, right? The new 5-drop Steel Legendary, 0/5. When you play this character, and at the start of your turn you may draw a card, then choose and discard a card, and she gets +1 for each card in your discard, which this is a wheel build, I know we haven't talked about it yet, but she can easily become a 15, a 16, a 25, and just kind of be a huge nuisance on the board, taking out locations in one swing, taking out Chernabog, taking out any of their huge threats, while also filtering through your hand to get rid of any pesky uninkables that might be bricking you, and to kind of start digging for the songs you might need when you need them, like Wheel or Dino or Grab. The other 2 characters we have up here, while not explicitly Dino targets, are perfectly fine to hit off of Dino. We have Pete, right? Always a great character, and playing him for free, stopping any actions, means that you're almost certainly going to have another turn to sing again. And we have Arthur. Now, Arthur is a really cool card, and we're running him as a 2-of in this deck. And if you hit him off Dino, that can be great. As a 6/6 body that quests for 3, he's really hard to deal with. The other thing you can do is play him. And ideally, you want to play him when you have a wheel in your hand. So you can imagine we do something like we have Bianca on the field on turn 3. On turn 4, we could sing Dino, drop a Cogsworth or a Chenpo ideally, and play an Arthur all in the same turn. And again, Chenpo, Cogsworth, both really hard to deal with, and an Arthur behind them is terrifying. Now, Arthur's main downside, if you haven't seen this card, is you skip your turn's draw step, which means you don't draw at the start of your turn, which is normally crippling, but of course in a blue steel deck, we're going to play Whole New World, right? And while it's still here. And so ideally you have a wheel in your hand by the time Arthur comes down. Then next turn, right, you now have something like a Bianca, Cogsworth, and an Arthur all on board. Then next turn, you can sing Wheel with Cogs or Chenpo or Bianca, draw a whole new 7 cards, and that skip your turn's draw step doesn't really matter anymore. Just to briefly go over the other cards, we've got some removal. So we have 3 copies of Grab Your Swords. With the amount of 5 and 6 cost characters we have for Dino, that also lends itself really nicely to singing Grab Your Swords. And with the popularity of Green Steel running John and Diablo that gets dealt with, as well as Hyper Aggro Amber Steel that runs Piglets and Cindy's that just get completely wiped out with Grab, it's kind of a no-brainer in this meta. Then we are also running 2 copies of Zeus and 2 copies of Strength. This can be messed with. You could run more Strength, you could run more Zeus, you could run Let It Go, but this is going to be your single target removal. This list is also running 2 copies of Visions. This could also go up or down. I love Visions in blue steel decks because it helps you find the song you need, whether that's a Dino or a Wheel or a Grab, and sing it with one of your characters that you already have on board. Or if you are really desperate, you can play it on turn 2. If you have something like the 1-drop kit, you can play Visions on turn 2 to search for your shift kit, which is super, super clutch in actually getting him out early. Lastly, we just got to cover this 2-of Mulan, which kind of exists to help filter your deck and get rid of any extra uninkables you have in hand. There's not many 1-drop allies, but she's pretty replaceable if you find one you like. And then the Mr. Smee, who is obviously an amazing card. You could run Calhoun here instead, but I didn't want the uninkables. Smee already helps us deal with aggro pretty well, and behind a Cogsworth or a Chenpo is just going to quest out with the kit for a lot. And if you get Cogsworth down, he doesn't even take any damage. The second 1-drop slot is really flexible. So another route you could go with this, if you're not facing as much aggro, is you could swap out the Mulan and the 2 of the Tinkerbell, and you could run the Happy as a Clam Tamatoa with 4 Popsicle instead, right? Similar to a Ruby Sapphire or a Blurple list, where you have the Popsicles for kind of sustained draw, and then late game, or even early game, you could high roll a Tamatoa off of Dino, or play him at 6 ink to get those Popsicles back and kind of sustain you out and play a longer game versus more control matchups. This deck is a very mid-range tempo list, And I called it KiWheel because it's kind of combining the classic blue steel ramp strategy with a Kiwi character heavy strategy. So if you think of Kiwi decks, right, the classic is Alice, Pluto, Cogs. The concept kind of remains the same of you have warded characters and you have bodyguards and you have Cogsworth, right? And so in this case, instead of Alice, we have Kit on turn 3, right? And we have something like Chenpo, hopefully for free to protect him, and then we have Cogsworth. And that kind of lock, again, of ward plus bodyguard plus resist is super strong. And we're going to be playing a lot of characters really quickly. The difference between this and a Kiwi list is the characters we're going to be playing really quickly are Tinkerbell and Namari and Kit and Chenpo, as opposed to Smeeze and Calhoun's. And in this list, we're going to be refilling our hand with Wheel as opposed to Docs. In terms of the meta, I actually think this deck is really well positioned into a lot of the relevant decks. Versus Steel Song, it does really well because of the ward in combination with things like Cogsworth and Grab to wipe the board. If they wheel you, that's great. That's what you were going to do anyway, and you can always wheel them. I mean, it's always risky, but very doable. Things like Pete to stop them from singing when you have a relevant singer down. Feels really strong into Steel Song, being able to wipe Cindy, wipe a lot of their characters with Grab plus Tank, right? That kills pretty much their entire board. And then them not really being able to get around a Cogsworth, Chenpo, or even just a Cogsworth. The new Rhino, again, is not really being played as much in Steel Song, is a problem, but, you know, you have Zeus, you have Bianca to trade into, or not trade, but to take it out without trading. And so you have a lot of answers, but you definitely have to be more careful with that. Discard and the green decks in general are pretty even feeling. I think that the green Ursula feels really bad, but it always does. Any song deck hates to get your song sniped by the Ursula coming down on 2. That being said, I think if you play around it and mulligan correctly, it's not the end of the world. And they can't really deal well with you just dropping a Kit, dropping another character and questing out. Kit and Arthur questing out is really hard for them to deal with because they can't Bruno or Zeus or Strength your Kit. So I think Kit's huge for both of those matchups. And then I won't go into every matchup in detail, but aggro, I think we do fine. Having Grab so early really helps. We don't have huge board presence at the beginning, and so a hyper aggro is going to probably outspeed you if they're on the play, but that's always the case. But you have the potential to shift, sing Grab, shift, sing Zeus, drop, shift, sing Dino, drop a Tank, next turn sing Grab, and really control the board. So like any deck, the aggro is probably going to get to 12, 13, but this list has a lot of ways to control them, and then once you're at that threshold, you can start questing out and apply pressure and take the dub once they've kind of gassed out. Blurple and Ruby Am, I'm going to put in like a similar category. They feel very doable. In Blurple's case, I think the fact that Kit has ward, again, super relevant. Cogs has ward, super relevant. They're not going to be able to hit you with Into the Unknown. They're not going to be able to hit you with Hades effect or Elsa effect. You still have to be very careful of Crab Fox in both of those matchups. But as long as you're playing around that and you have a Cogs down or you have a Chenpo down before you exert too heavily, they really struggle to actually get your characters off the board and just stop you from questing out. And then lastly, our Boogeyman is going to be red-blue, right? Sisu wipes out almost the entire board. We don't have great ways to stop it. Obviously, it gets around Pete. So I think red-blue is going to be really tough for this deck to combat. That being said, I think there's still ways you can kind of go wide early, quest out, similar to like a Kiwi list, and hope that you get enough value by the time Sisu comes out that you can close out the game with a few warded characters. Obviously, Shark is a problem. We don't have great answers to evasives, so just the song Zeus, Strength, Grab, Tink. So playing around evasives, especially one like Half Shark, is going to be a problem, but I think it does really well overall. And even into Kiwi, I feel like this list does really well into Kiwi with the amount of big bodies. And again, rather than going a 1-2-3 curve, you're going a 1-4-5+6 curve, which is really, really tough for Kiwi to beat. And you can oftentimes beat them down and either outquest them or kill their Pluto, kill their Cogs as soon as they tap for the first time, and then go from there and out-control them. And that's going to be pretty much everything you need to know about the KiWheel list. I'm going to have some footage in the background of me playing on Inktable versus the new Rhino Amber Steel list on the draw, so you can kind of get an idea of what this deck can do. With that said, thanks so much for watching my first video. If you enjoyed it and want to see more like it, please leave a like and subscribe. If you have thoughts on the deck, or if you try it out, I'd love to hear how it went for you in the comments below. I've been Pop, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.